Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Trace Gallagher. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announcing new regulations Friday that would effectively ban bump stocks. The proposed rule would amend ATF rules to include bump stocks within the definition of machine gun under federal law. In a statement, Sessions referenced the horrific shooting in Las Vegas last October, where a shooter armed with bump stock-equipped rifles killed 58 people and injured more than 800 others. Still no motive for the attack on a California military base last Wednesday. A burning minivan full of propane tanks and gas cans barreled through the gate at Travis Air Force Base. The driver found dead inside the vehicle has been identified as Hafiz Kasi, a 51-year-old Indian man who had lived in the U.S. since 1993. Investigators have found no links to terrorism. If news breaks out, we'll break in. I'm Trace Gallagher. Now back to Hannity.
Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity, a crisis in America's media. Now, the media has been absolutely obsessed with Russia, and the fake and phony idea that somehow President Trump colluded with the Russians. Just take a listen to the insane amount of coverage that they have given to this in just the past few days.
New fallout tonight in the Russia investigation.
Russians.
All right, that was just a sampling. Joining us now, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and from the Washington Examiner, Fox News contributor Byron York. Byron, one of the things I've liked about your coverage is you keep going in a very different direction than the sheep in the media. You hear the coverage, you see the coverage. House Intel Committee wrapped up their investigation. No evidence of collusion, no evidence of anything wrong in business dealings. You wrote a piece last night. What is your take overall? Wouldn't we know by now if there was some collusion?
I think we would. That was quite a montage, by the way. Yeah, look at what Robert Mueller has done. Look at the people he has charged. Look at the people he has made plea agreements with. He has charged 3 people who were very highly placed in the Trump campaign: Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, and Richard Gates. You have to ask yourself, if there were collusion, these guys would probably be involved. They all did have some links to Russia, and yet all have been charged with crimes, and none of those crimes have involved any sort of collusion, conspiracy, coordination between Russia and the Trump campaign. So if you simply look at what we have so far, we always have to be cautious and say we don't know what's coming. Maybe other charges are coming. But these are the people that if there were collusion, you would think they would be involved with it, and they haven't been charged with that.
Yeah, and Greg, let's go to this here. They thought every step of the way that the president, they were certain in the media, they were certain that Trump was guilty of collusion. The interesting thing is when I keep playing Obama just before the election, telling Donald Trump, lecturing him to stop whining, and that, you know, no serious person could ever think that our elections could be in any way influenced by anybody. How did this narrative evolve, and why were they so certain, and how could they be so wrong?
The media's frustration and disappointment in their failure to find collusion is really quite palpable. You know, every time some event was revealed, the media ran with their hair on fire. Collusion, as if it were a crime. The Trump Tower meeting, you know, Flynn had a conversation with Russians during the transition. Kislyak actually spoke to the Attorney General. The Carter Page speech in Moscow. All of this was by declaration of the liberal media criminal collusion. The problem is none of them could ever point to a criminal statute that makes collusion a crime except in antitrust law. And when they finally discovered that, I mean, I thought they were going to cry. You know, the problem is they don't know the first thing about the law. And this is a case all about the law. And they haven't looked up the criminal statute or the case law on obstruction. They couldn't find any case law on collusion. And so now they've resorted to interviewing Playboy models and porn stars, you know, in an attempt to
and consensual
destroy
relationships.
Yeah, over a consensual.
We have a lot to say about that on Monday. But, you know, you think about it, though, in the process of all this, we learned a lot. We did learn that the Russians, they wanted to create chaos. We know that Hillary was hacked by probably the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans, everybody, because of the illegal server. But she fixed a primary. We know that top people in the Department of Justice and the FBI fixed and rigged an investigation into her server, exoneration before investigation. Then we know that she paid for Russian information to influence the general election. That information was then used to obtain a FISA warrant, even though unverified, turns out to be lies. And they purposely misled a FISA judge. So we did learn a lot as a result of this, but it's not what the media wanted to find.
You know, could I add one more thing also about collusion and the importance of not having any charge of collusion? Because remember, the conversation has turned in many ways to the idea of obstruction of justice, that President Trump has obstructed justice in the Trump-Russia investigation. But collusion would be the underlying crime for that. And remember, this is going to be, if the president is charged with anything, it will be in a political context. It would be impeachment if Democrats were to take the House in November. And remember, Trump has already said, you know, listen, they attack you and they attack you, and when you fight back, they call it obstruction. His argument will be, are you telling me that I'm being charged with obstructing an investigation into something that didn't happen?
We shall see. When we come back, our Hannity exclusive, we have the FBI informant on the Uranium One scandal revealing what the Russians thought of President Obama, and something the mainstream media has hardly been reporting as this special edition of Hannity continues. You'll see it only here next.
The blade quality you'd expect from Gillette, at a price you wouldn't. The new Gillette 3 and Gillette 5. Available now for $7.99. Gillette, the best a man can get.
For a limited time, lease one new Samsung Galaxy S9 or S9 Plus and get one S9 on us. You'll get it on the Sprint network, ranked #1 for LTE download delivered speeds. Plus, get the best price for unlimited, now with Hulu. Visit your local Sprint store and switch today.
The grid. It is the foundation of all design. From what lies in our past to what lies ahead. A pattern that can be reordered. A shape that can be reshaped. Within it, you can contain anything. And with it, you can change everything. Now, the most universal of all design's building blocks assumes its most disruptive form. Derupt.
This is not a popularity contest. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to find out what happened, to report it without fear or favor. We work endless hours to make sure that when we deliver it to you as fact, it's a fact.
The mainstream media on this. Listen to Campbell describing the criminal activity that he exposed while undercover inside a Russian state-owned company at the center of this scandal, and how he was able to unearth all of this.
They authorized me to make the kickbacks, but let me back up. I initiated that contract as an American businessman, right, not as an FBI informant, and not by the direction of the FBI. So the contract was in force, and then ultimately, when I realized that it was a veiled contract for money laundering, essentially, and reported it, then the FBI began to oversee all aspects of the operation. There was a very sophisticated piece of equipment in my briefcase, and I staged it so that when I opened the briefcase and placed it there in front of the Russian, he would lean over and he would be highly visible, reaching into the briefcase and taking out a tremendous amount of cash.
Listen to what Campbell says that he heard the Russians say about the U.S. and then President Barack Obama.
It was very illuminating because of the indications that they made about the influence from the United States government, their arrogance about the weakness of our government. It was not easy to sit there and listen to it. They talked about the weakness of the president. They talked about, they spoke about his weakness, and in describing the president's weakness, they used racial epithets. They did, which was not good.
And then, of course, zero mainstream media coverage. Joining us now with more is one of the reporters who interviewed Campbell. Now, The Hill's Allison Spann is with us. Allison, thank you for being with us. Thanks for sharing this tape. It's never been seen before. He's never spoken before publicly. And I'm listening to this. He knows what's happening in 2009. He infiltrated Putin's operatives in America that had a goal to get into America's uranium market, and they're involved in bribery, kickbacks, money laundering, and all sorts of extortion. The country knew it, the FBI knew it, and they still allowed the deal to happen 18 months later, and he's talking about how weak our country is. Why did they let this happen?
You know, Sean, it's unclear, but as far as Doug says, he was undercover for 6 years inside Rosatom as an FBI informant. He gathered a ton of information. You heard him talk about the scenario where he had the camera inside his suitcase. He caught some Russian officials on camera taking $50,000 in cash, and he presented all of this information to the FBI, and they assured him, you know, this information is so good, it's gone to the FBI director, and it's even gone to the president. President Obama has seen this information. So he was thinking, I got this great information. Surely this is going to prevent the Russia's plan here in the United States. And then he started hearing that all these deals were going through. And, you know, you heard him say he was shocked. He was appalled when he heard that these deals actually went through.
Let me play one more side. William Campbell says he was assured the Obama White House had been informed of his information. So it went to the highest level. Robert Mueller was the FBI director, Hillary the Secretary of State. Then the money flowed to Bill Clinton, doubling his speaking fees, money going from people involved in this to the Clinton Foundation. But it's saying here Obama knew, and he did nothing. Let's play this.
I was assured that the White House also had been informed because of the importance on a national security side, and it was actually a very enthusiastic commendation that I received from the FBI because my work had resulted in the White House daily brief being handed to then President Obama.
That means the president knew about all of this. Robert Mueller knew about all of this. We import, Allison, you know, of almost 90% of our uranium. We don't have enough, and it all happened, and they had 18 months with an informant inside. How could this ever happen?
Well, look, right now you have Democrats calling for stricter restrictions on Russia, saying that Russians are bad actors. But then, under their watch, you had an FBI informant inside Rosatom telling the U.S. government, hey, this is Russia's plan. They're trying to make the United States dependent on Russian uranium. And during that time when he was giving them this information, you had the deal with Uranium One go through. You had the Russians garner billions of dollars worth of new nuclear fuel contracts, and they were able to get a hold of a large percent of the United States uranium. So
yeah.
it is shocking.
All right, Ellison, thank you for sharing the tape. We appreciate it. Joining us now with more reaction, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. You have spent hours, Sarah, with this informant. This is only the tip of the iceberg of what he's saying, but he knew the whole time. The White House knew, Hillary knew, Mueller knew, crimes were being committed. Nobody stopped it. Why?
That's right. It's been almost a year since I've known the informant, and the trove of information, Sean, that he's delivered is incredible. Now, I believe, and right now we know that the FBI has questioned him, that they are looking into this, that they've reopened the Clinton Foundation investigation, and they're looking at those ties between Russia, Russians with Rosatom, oligarchs that actually had connections with the Clinton Foundation. And this is really important because for a long time, people believed that the FBI had just shut down these investigations and that they were no longer looking at it. What we know now is that they are, and that they've interviewed William Douglas Campbell. Another really important factor here that a lot of people need to realize is that during this time in 2010, he also provided the United States government with sufficient evidence that Russia was also providing all kinds of assistance to Iran with their nuclear program. And what's important about that is that in 2010, Obama basically lifted the sanctions on Russia. They reset with Russia the sanctions that had been put in place by the Bush administration. So even though President Obama had all this information, he still reset with Russia. They moved forward, and we can see what happened after that with the Uranium One deal.
It is so ironic in light of the phony Trump-Russia, narrative that the media pushes every second of every day. And the Clinton and the media talking points on this have been, this story has been debunked. But we learned that this informant, who you know and have spent many, many hours with and are very well aware of all of the evidence that he has available and that he's now presenting, he testified and spoke to the FBI field office investigators into the Clinton Foundation. I always say in these cases, follow the money. Where does the money now lead us now that we know an investigation is going on, that the story has not been debunked?
I think what's going to happen here, Sean, and talking to people in law enforcement, federal law enforcement who've conducted these type of investigations and people who actually were on this investigation from the beginning, they're going to start tracing the money. He provided the foundation. He provided the evidence, the players, who was involved, what they talked about, the laundering, the schemes that were going on. And now what they got to do is look at those players and trace that money, see where the money went, the money that went even to Bill Clinton, remember, from Renaissance Capital, which was the Russian bank basically run by FSB agents, which is their spies, that paid Bill Clinton $500,000 in 2010 for a speech. Other money that may have gone through lobbying firms that were then giving, the Global Initiative, part of the Clinton Foundation, basically free services after the money came through them. So they're going to be tracing this money. They're going to be following that money, and hopefully it'll lead to some answers, and could be a lot of trouble for Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation.
All right, we're going to see a lot of this coming. This was in December. This informant was interviewed by the FBI field office in Little Rock. All right, Sarah Carter, great work. As our special investigation into the corrupt media continues, their efforts now to smear John Bolton as this special edition of Hannity continues.
If people sense that you're not pushing an agenda, they're going to rely on you. Having been in this business so long, you're able to detect what is real and what's just political noise. so much barking and noise and yelling. Our role is to take 3 steps back and discern what really matters.
The most important thing that we do, we are looking out for the forgotten men and women in this country.
They're going to get a straight shooter, no holds barred. I'm not going to cut people slack. The viewers expect that.
Fox is the one place where dissent is allowed.
We have voices. We won't be silent.
Who controls my voice? Nobody.
When someone watches the news, they want someone they can trust. Our job is to cut through the talking points.
We're going to ask the tough questions because there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that needs to be challenged.
What I'm doing is making sure that whatever is developed through the day, people are fully informed from coast to coast.
We're 24/7 news, but we're really down to the minute.
We're going to be fearless. We're going to be fair.
Whether it's 4 a.m. or midnight, we're there.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Trace Gallagher. Fired Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe is defending himself in an op-ed for the Washington Post. McCabe writes, quote, "I have been accused of lack of candor. That is not true. I did not knowingly mislead or lie to investigators." He was fired 1 week ago by Attorney General Jeff Sessions based on an internal FBI report. McCabe writes, "Not in my worst nightmares did I ever dream my FBI career would end this way." He was 2 days away from retirement when he was fired. A teenage girl who was shot when a classmate allegedly opened fire inside their Maryland high school has died. Her family says that Jalen Willie was brain dead and taken off life support on Thursday. Police say she was shot by Austin Rollins at Great Mills High School. Rollins died at the scene. Authorities say Rollins and Willie had been in a relationship. I'm Trace Gallagher. Now back to Hannity.
Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity about your corrupt media in this country. President Trump's decision to replace General H.R. McMaster with former Ambassador John Bolton as his national security advisor has made some in the media just lash out in the most outrageous but yet predictable ways. Let's take a look.
We go to McMaster and we bring in John Bolton. This is bringing in Tojo. He said to them, no more stupid wars. Now he brings in the godfather of stupid wars, John Bolton.
I think the president is assembling a war cabinet. To take a war to Bob Mueller, he's got Joe DeGeneva. To take a trade war to China, he's got Larry Kudlow. And now to actually have a real war, he's got John Bolton. And the only question is, will we find ourselves in a military conflict vis-a-vis North Korea or Iran or both?
If the foreign policy goes in the direction that he has advocated, we are going to be in for a very rough, if not calamitous, time ahead.
Yeah, this is a bucking bronco.
This man has called for preemptive strikes on North Korea and Iran for the nuclear programs. What is going on with this guy? I find him to be dangerous, and it's put me into a state of anxiety today, frankly.
Oh, every day it's hysteria, and that's not all. Take a look at how tinfoil conspiracy theorist Rachel Maddow reported this on her show.
We're going to need another wall soon. We actually figured out a way to make this one slightly larger, like just by kind of taking care of the margins. You know how you can make your term papers look shorter?
Oh, we have another giant list for you. Check out all of President Trump's accomplishments, things he has actually achieved so far. Now, here's the problem with the media. They're not going to show this on any show on Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, the whole fake news network, CNN. And that's a problem because they say they're fair and balanced, and they're not. Joining us now, American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Schlapp and former White House Press Secretary, Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. All right, good to see you both. It's so big, the list of accomplishments. Even the Heritage Foundation, Ari, they pointed out that Donald Trump has gotten 64% of his agenda accomplished in his first year, which is higher than that of Ronald Reagan. And it's a conservative agenda. He's not a nationalist, populist. These names get thrown around. Sure, there's been some transition. There's been growing pains. He's also been under investigation for a year. It's very unprecedented, but a lot has gotten done. Nobody ever talks about it.
And I'll tell you, because I know John Bolton, with John Bolton at NSA, even more is about to be done. John Bolton is one of the smartest, sharpest, savviest operators in Washington, and he is a true north. He's a principled conservative, and I welcome John Bolton into this administration.
Yeah, me
I love
too.
to hear the Democrats talk about they're in a state of anxiety. Have they ever not been? And maybe they should move there.
Well, and this is the thing about the way I characterize the reporting. It is nonstop, breathless hysteria. It is, Bob Woodward talked about how they are unhinged, Matt. And I know it was bad during the Bush years. Poor Ari, I wouldn't want his job, but I really wouldn't want Sarah Huckabee's job now.
No, I agree with that. Look, they ended up
your
calling...
wife's job, for that matter.
They ended up... That's okay. I console her every evening, and she's proud of what she does. But, you know, at the end of the George W. Bush administration, he was obviously pretty low in the polls, and they were calling him every name in the book. Bush lied, people died, warmonger, racist, you name it, they called him that. It's what liberals do with every single Republican. The difference is with Donald Trump is they just started off with all these terrible slanderous terms. And John Bolton's now having to undergo this as well. And I actually think, Sean, I'm hopeful. The American people see through this. The American people, they have air in their lungs. They feel hope. They like the agenda. And this is something that gives the American people hope that someone's going to stand up and fight.
I want to fill in for Sarah Huckabee Sanders one day. Just one. I just want one day
like
behind
you to fill
that
in
podium.
for me.
Oh, I wish I should have. I missed my opportunity. All right, guys, thank you. Coming up, more of the special edition of Hannity and your corrupt media straight ahead.
Getting an amazing iPhone 8?
Yeah, because...
Now you can lease one iPhone 8, get the other one on Sprint.
And you get the best price for unlimited.
I'm the new Sprintern.
Sprint plus...
Intern. Yeah, clever, right?
And now get one iPhone 8 and get a second one on us.
justice. This led me to declare eternal war with slavery. Remember what you're fighting for!
All right, that wraps up this special edition of Hannity on your corrupt media. That's all the time we have left this evening. We will always be fair and balanced. We are not the Destroy Trump media. We have an incredible program Monday, The Double Standard, as it relates to the treatment of, Juanita Broaddrick and Paula Jones. They will be joining us as Stormy Mania takes over America. We have a different perspective. Stay tuned. More news continues. Let not your heart be troubled. Laura Ingraham is next. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.
Good evening from Washington. I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle. We have a fantastic Friday lineup tonight, all live, lots of breaking news, including just a few moments ago, the president issues an order banning most transgender troops from serving in the military. We're going to explain why the president is taking this stand coming up. Also, a new study claiming that the Border Patrol agents don't really want a wall. What? Or you're going to understand once we tell you who's behind this report. Plus, the profanity-laced interview from one of the organizers of tomorrow's gun control march. You won't believe that. And